Hi, I'm Brandon Boulder for On Focus, and today we're going to do a little talk with some officials here at the City of Marshfield to talk about some developments taking place in the Yellowstone Industrial Park. We had some pretty exciting news come out of Common Council last August with an expansion of a business from Colby moving to Marshfield. You probably have seen the development taking place in what's known as the Yellowstone Development Area, just off of Galvin. On Tuesday's Common Council meeting, the city will be entertaining the resolution of funding an additional $750,000 for this project, and we're here to learn more about that funding. Dan, my understanding when this project originally came to light last August, the original plan was to be a $1.3 million project. And we learned here early August that the project came in just over $2 million. Let's talk about what the difference is, that $750,000 that you're looking to transfer, and what some of the requirements were, and kind of give the citizens of Marshfield a little bit more background before Common Council starts up.
Right, yeah, you're right, Brandon. Last August we were working with PCA to have them move their plant here to Marshfield and working through that planning stage. And the initial concepts were to construct a single railroad track to service their new facility. That was very important for them to have rail service with this new plant. So that initial estimate of rail track construction was about $1.3 million. As we got further into it and reviews through the CN, the railroad provider, and further into their operations folks and engineering team, they realized, well, we need more than just one track here because we have to have a way of switching trains in and out of the PCA building, out of the PCA site. And if you're going to develop this industrial park for other rail users, then it's important to have a passing track, a siding track, so switching of train cars can be done not only for PCA but for others in the future.
So probably the first thing to note is you guys are making the track a little bit longer. You are expanding the rail connection so that other businesses potentially could use it down the road, and it's not just one lane that's going in, there's a parallel lane that's going in with it.
For part of it, correct. So back then our design firm MSA looked at some options on how can we accommodate switching of tracks or of train cars for PCA but also serve the park, and they came up with several options including running a parallel track next to the primary track, doing something on the PCA site, or even acquiring more property than we would have wanted to do something. In the end, we came up with a solution that will construct about 800 feet of parallel track west of Galvin Avenue, between Veterans Parkway and Galvin Avenue, along the curve there, right off of the CN industrial lead track. So that's what's driving the cost up a little bit higher with this budget resolution that will be in front of the council tomorrow night. So that $750,000 is obviously the cost for increased track construction, but we also had to acquire additional property. There was a billboard on the Marshfield scrap property that had to be moved. It's actually been taken down already. So all that added into the cost of this. In the end, the $750,000 was financed through long-term debt, additional borrowing, and that borrowing is paid back from the property taxes generated by the PCA project.
So it's important to kind of touch base on that a little bit, I think. So the extra $750,000 is coming out of that TID, and it's being paid back from the property taxes of that TID, so it won't actually be affected by other property tax revenue elsewhere in the city.
That's correct. This is a standalone tax incremental financing district, so the cost of infrastructure to serve this district is repaid through the property taxes generated by the new development. So what this additional borrowing does is it extends the time for payback on that borrowing from I think the numbers are a 12-year payback initially estimated last fall. Now we're looking at about a 13-year payback, 12 to 13-year payback. I'm not sure my numbers are exactly right, but the concept is there that we add an additional year or two of payback time or tax collection in order to pay back this extra dollar amount.
When this development is finished, do you believe that Economic Development Board will be looking and trying to promote other businesses now that we have that rail track to service?
I think there will be several groups that will be looking at promoting this as a rail-served industrial park, not just locally, but CN has made a mention that once they know an area is set up for rail traffic, they like to have their customers all in a tight geographic area. It's easier for them to do the switching.
So it could be known as Hub City Days once again, or Hub City Community once again.
Well, yeah, I mean those things can take time, obviously, but CN has said that we have customers who look for new locations, additional space from time to time, and they wonder where's a good spot to go, and they will have Marshfield on their list of possibilities because we have these rail improvements here.
Well, it sounds like interesting. I know Common Council will be hearing this tomorrow too. For those that want to tune in, there's a new start time to Common Council. It starts at 6 p.m., so you can definitely watch that live on Charter. Tune in to the city's website to pay attention. So 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I guess the one thing, maybe for those that traffic down Galvin, I guess it's interesting to know, how will traffic be diverted, or how will that be affected? There's already one railroad stop that has lights and such on Galvin. Will there be lights at this intersection where the rail passing, or how will traffic be maintained there?
That's a good question. This would be not a full-blown lights and whistles crossing. This would just have crossbucks. So if you're familiar with the Hume Avenue crossing, or even just a little bit further down Galvin as you come up to Veterans Parkway, it just has the crossbucks there. No gates. And the train movements here are anticipated to be just one train per day, so the movements are pretty limited and at low speed. So this would be not like the other mainline crossings that we see in town.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Mayor, anything else you want to comment on before we go?
No, Dan covered it well, and any questions like this, of course, Dan always takes care of all the public works in the city and does a great job. And even though, as he said, this is going up a little bit, the payback is going from 12 to 13 and a half years. So ultimately, it's a PCA coming to Marshfield it's just a great thing for our city, and I believe with this new design and updated design, even though it's a little bit longer payback, ultimately it's going to be a great thing for the citizens of Marshfield.
Well, guys, I appreciate your time. Guys, if you are interested in see this building getting erected, go out on Galvin, take a look. They are hiring immediately, is what the sign says. So I'm Brandon Boda for On Focus. Until we see each other again.